2 weeks after the start of the Russo-Ukrainian War, specifically on March 9, 2020, the American CNN published an article titled "The Russian Ruble Has Been Destroyed," and indeed, the ruble has already lost over half of its value since the beginning of the war. Days pass, and in May, the American Bloomberg agency declares the ruble as the world's strongest currency this year. This information surprised many people, but the strangest thing was Russia's dealing with interest rates. At the same time, when all countries were raising interest rates, the Russian center was moving in the opposite direction by lowering interest rates. This, of course, makes us wonder how the Russian ruble was able to recover its strength and become the best performer in the world. Does the rise in the ruble exchange rate mean that the Russian economy has not been affected by Western sanctions? And why did Russia reduce the interest rate while the whole world was raising it? And the important question is, why America does not want Europe to stop buying oil from Russia? The United Nations Security Council unanimously passed Resolution 986 in April 1995. The resolution states that the Security Council will allow Iraq to export oil, but only if the nations that buy it put the money in an escrow account, and this account is subject to the supervision of the United Nations. The goal behind this decision was to prevent the Iraqi government from disposing freely of the country's oil revenues, and America is now thinking of implementing an escrow account mechanism against Russia. Last April, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen made somewhat strange statements at her press conference in Washington. She advised Europeans to think a lot before taking steps to ban oil purchases from Russia. The Americans, according to the minister's statements, want Russia to feel the greatest degree of economic pain, but without affecting the U.S. economy. Yellen knows very well that the complete oil embargo that Western countries are seeking to impose on Russia will raise world oil prices, and this will affect the American consumers, and thus will hit the economy of the United States in general. In recent weeks, gasoline prices in America have reached their highest level in 14 years. The average price of a gallon of gasoline in America is more than $5, although only a year ago the price of a gallon was $3.8. The main reason behind the increase in gasoline prices in America is the rise in crude oil prices, and oil prices rose due to the exit of about 1 million barrels of Russian oil from the market. What is the solution in light of this predicament? How to punish Russia and deprive it of the revenues of its imports? And how these measures do not affect world prices? The solution that America thought of to this dilemma is the escrow account mechanism that was implemented with Iraq in '95. In early April, Republican Representative Andy Barr proposed to the U.S. Treasury Secretary to oblige Russian oil exporting companies to transfer their revenues to an escrow account. So what is the position of the Russians on this talk? The Russians not only rejected this talk, but they surprised everyone with a shocking move, which is to oblige European countries to pay in rubles. On March 31st, Russian President Vladimir Putin issued a decision to collect the price of gas shipments to a group of countries, which he called unfriendly countries, in Russian rubles. On March 7th, the ruble price was $1.50 for every dollar, while before the war its exchange rate was 84. The first step in the Russian intervention came from the governor of the Russian central bank, Elvira Nabiulyana, who announced the raise of the interest rate in the country from 9.5% to 20%. At the same time, the government obliged Russian companies to sell 80% of export earnings, which are often in foreign currency. On May 21st, Russian gas was cut off to Finland, and on May 31st, it was cut off to the Netherlands, and a day later to Denmark after they refused to pay in rubles. What happened made the rest of the European companies open bank accounts in rubles and sell the dollar and the euro in the Russian market and bought the ruble instead. This has boosted the value of the Russian ruble and made its value rise against the dollar. On the 26th of last June, the dollar exchange rate was 54 rubles, and this is the highest level the ruble has reached since 2018. At the same time, the ruble reached its highest level against the euro in 7 years. But there is an important point that you should pay attention to. Russia selling oil in its currency will undoubtedly reduce its foreign currency holdings. But this did not pose problems for Russia, and this is for two reasons. The first is that the Russians made great profits from selling oil, and the second reason is that the Russians have reduced their purchases in dollars through bilateral agreements with large countries such as China as they deal in local currencies. From the beginning of the war until the end of May, the trading volume of the ruble and yuan currency pair in the forex market increased by 1,067%. The most important measure for Russia was to reduce the interest rate from 20 to 9.5%, Thus, interest rates returned to their pre-war levels while maintaining the value of the ruble. And here let us ask a question. Is the increase in the ruble's rates a sign of the cohesion of the Russian economy? No. The comeback made by the ruble is undoubtedly a great achievement, but this does not mean that the Russian economy is fine or that it has not been affected by the sanctions. In statements made by Alvina Nabuliana, she said that the Russian economy is facing pressure from abroad because of the sanctions. Here I have finished my words, and as usual, I have a question for you. 6 months have passed since the beginning of the Russian-Ukrainian war, and each side adheres to its opinion. Who do you think will fall back first, Russia or Ukraine? Let me know in the comments.